Our gospel this morning comes from the gospel according to John, the 14th chapter. Jesus said, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another advocate to be with you forever. This is the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him because he abides with you, and he will be in you. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. On that day, you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. They who have my commandments and keep them are those who love me, and those who love me will be loved by my Father, and I will love them and reveal myself to them." The gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I'd like to invite all the kids up front for the kids' message. All right. Has this ever happened to you? You're in the presence of a 2-year-old, or maybe a 3-year-old who doesn't have their R's yet, and the child looks at you, utters a very long sentence that makes no sense, and you look to the parent for translation. Have you been there? Yes, we have been there. This happens all the time, right? Or have you ever misheard a song lyric? Yeah. Years later, you find out you've been singing it wrong. Yeah, that's not embarrassing. Never happened to me. Yeah. There are a few really good examples of that. This is a classic. Tiny Dancer sounds just like Tony Danza when Elton John sings it. Don't know why, just does. And for the Creedence Clearwater Revival fans, "Don't go round tonight. Well, it just may take your life. There's a baboon on the right." It's sad. I really thought it was baboon for a while. But if you know the title to the song is Bad Moon Rising, then it's easier to understand. The lyric is actually, "There's a bad moon on the rise." But that didn't come to me right away. All right. But this stuff happens, right? We hear things that sound strange to our ears, and it happens at church too. This one actually happened to someone I know. I will not throw her under the bus. It is no one you've ever met before, but she honestly thought God's name was Howard when she was little. Sad but true, okay? There's another one I heard this week that I had never heard before. I love this one. "Our Father who does art in heaven." Isn't that sweet? God's got the glue and the glitter. I think that's fantastic. My point is, we all hear things differently, don't we? And we hear things sometimes that sound strange to our ears. In Acts 17, we have this fantastic story of the Apostle Paul telling the Greeks in Athens about God, and it doesn't make sense to them. So they go to Paul and they ask him to explain. They say, "You are bringing some strange ideas to our ears, and we would like to know what they mean." I love that. So Paul looks around. He sees their altar to an unknown God and tells them that he knows who that unknown God is. It's the one he's been telling them about, the Lord of heaven and earth. See, the first way he said it didn't make sense to the Greeks. So he looked for a connection. He looked for a different way to say it that would make more sense to them. And he found it in their altar to an unknown God. Okay? Different things make sense to different people. Sometimes you have to explain things a bunch of different ways until it clicks, right? Like when my son was learning multiplication. This was not pretty at our house. The regular way to do double-digit multiplication made no sense to him. He would lose track of his columns. It just didn't work. But when his teacher showed him the lattice method, he became a multiplying machine. That made sense to him. Okay? Moral of the story, things need to be explained in a way that makes sense to the listener, right? When it comes to telling people about God and God's love, music is one powerful way to convey the message. Music can proclaim the good news of God's love and what God has done for us in Jesus in ways that stir our souls like nothing else can. And just like different multiplication methods make sense to different people, different songs resonate with different people. A song that moves me might not connect as deeply with you, and vice versa. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes part of it might be the style of music, but the bigger part is that we have different life experiences. We have different voids in our lives, different hurts, different needs. We experience God differently. So different songs about God speak to each of us differently, but they all speak. Music and the arts can say a lot about God. Back in Acts, Paul also used poetry. He quoted a Greek poet who had written a poem about Zeus, right? And Paul told the Greeks about God by turning that poem on its head. He explained to them that the one in whom we live and move and have our being is not Zeus, but God, the Lord of heaven and earth. Okay? Paul used poetry, and not his own Jewish poetry that he grew up with, but the poetry of the Greeks he was talking with. He knew that language from that poem would make sense to the people of Athens, so he used it. So for us today, as we reach out with a voice of hope, what words will make sense to the people we talk with? What songs will resonate with them, proclaiming the good news of God's love in Jesus in ways they can hear? I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer to that. I mean, you've all got family and friends, right? You know that what makes sense to you doesn't necessarily make sense to everybody else you know, right? I got a teenager at home. He says stuff like dank memes. Like, he had to explain that one to me. It's like he's talking a foreign language sometimes, right? Everybody is different, including every one of us. And that is the good news today. Because each of us is different, you have a unique ability to share the gospel. You can connect with particular people better than anybody else in this room. So here's your assignment for the week. Listen to the people in your life. Listen to how they see the world. Listen for their longings. Listen for where they need hope in their lives. Then reach out with a voice of hope, a voice that resonates with them, that will connect with what's going on in their lives. You can say something to them, or send them a link to a song you think will speak to them, send a poem or a meme that you think will connect, or simply offer to listen to their questions and struggles over a cup of coffee. There are tons of ways to spread God's love, tons of ways to reach out with a voice of hope. So listen, ask God to guide you, and be that voice. With God's help, it won't sound like Greek to them. Amen.